by scratching on the surface. You'll never find a pearl if you wait out on the shore. That's the way it is when you're looking for the answers. Wisdom lies deep, wisdom lies in the search. Look a little deeper, go a little further, search a little harder. Don't you know you've got to grow? You know you've got to grow. You know you've got to grow. You've got to grow.
Hi there and welcome to Probe, the one talk show where we look a little deeper, search a little harder, because we believe that wisdom comes from searching. And if you seek, you will find the answers. So today we are looking deeper into entrepreneurship. Have you always thought about starting your business but something always stopped you? Maybe it's that personal loan or car loan, or maybe you're just wondering if it's all worth it. Well, today we meet the founders of Aradhana TV, Paul and Usha Devapriyam. Paul, having worked in the business field for 12 years, took that gigantic leap of starting his own business. And he was not from a business family, but was very successful. And then came that adventure of it all, what we are watching right now, the birth of Aradhana TV. So let's probe a little more.
You've got to grow.
We are indeed honored to have the founders of Aradhana TV with us in the studio today for this episode of Probe. They are Paul and Usha Devapriyam. Thank you so much for joining us today. We know how busy you are running a 24-hour channel, but you've taken the time to be with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, when I look at you, it almost looks like you were born to do something like this. But then I know that you were always a professional and a businessman all your life. So would you tell us something about your background, you know, your education, your experience in entrepreneurship? We would like to know something more.
Thank you, Sister Nirmala. Firstly, I would like to congratulate you for selecting this topic, entrepreneurship, which is a very dear subject of mine. And because I would like to see many entrepreneurs coming up, especially in our community.
I'm sure.
And I'm sure by the end of this show, many of our Christian young boys and professionals would look forward to becoming entrepreneurs.
I hope so too.
Well, I'm basically a management graduate. I did my master's in business administration from Osmania University. I passed out in 1985. Then I started working in multinational companies. I worked for over 12 years. And I was working in different levels, and I was last with a multinational company as a manager exports.
And I've heard that you were a very good professional and you've got several awards.
Yeah, one of the awards which I can still cherish was I was the Young Manager of the Year 1994 when I was just about 30 years. I was adjudged the Young Manager of the Year by the Hyderabad Management Association. In recognition of my contribution to my company. That was my first major achievement, I would say, as a professional.
That's fantastic at the age of 30. It's a real achievement. Now, having been a professional all your life, how is it that you thought of jumping into something totally different, you know, starting a television channel?
Prior to this, after I quit my job, that was in the year 1996, at the peak of my career, I first got into international trade. I was into exporting granites and importing furniture from Germany. And I had to struggle for almost 5-6 years to get the first major breakthrough, financially of course.
So I can see that you were always a risk taker and you were willing to pay the price and face whatever comes.
Yes, I mean that's definitely one of the major plus points in my success, I would say, because when I quit my job, almost everybody, including first my employer, my managing director refused to accept my resignation letter. Then my wife was against me quitting a job, a highly paid job with a good company.
I can understand her fears, no steady income coming in.
Yes, and my parents were against it.
So does that mean that your parents were not in business?
Both of them come from educational background.
Okay.
And my forefathers are all, they come from agricultural background. So I am the first generation entrepreneur that way.
So that's all the more creditable that you didn't come from that background and yet you were willing to risk everything that you had made. I mean, you could have just lost everything, but you were willing to jump into that.
Not really, because when I started off, I didn't have anything. So, there was not much to lose, but I always had the calculation that if I fail, I can get back to my job.
I think the advantage you had is that you are well qualified,
yes,
and you are a hard worker,
yes,
and you had a reputation already,
yes,
so you could always get back.
Yes.
So that's a good point for our viewers to take,
yes,
that if you really want to jump into entrepreneurship, don't just jump in without any education, without the willingness to work hard. You must have that backup.
Yes.
So you have something to fall back on.
Yeah, that's the reason why I chose to work with different companies. Even in the 12 years of my professional work, I changed 4 jobs, and I tried to work in different industries to gain experience, because I always had the zeal to get into business.
Since you were a first generation entrepreneur and without the backup of a business family, tell me, how difficult was it for you to start the business and run the business?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Number of challenges I had to face. Number one, I don't come from a business family. Number two, I didn't have much of reserves in terms of finances. Number three, I come from, I was a professional where I'm used to getting a paycheck at the end of the month.
Of course.
And here in business, when I have employees, I need to pay their salaries. So I mean, when the month turns, it's very difficult time, because you have to first look after your employees, give their salaries on time. That's the first challenge. And the second one is get the business, get the ball rolling. So it's a very difficult task, and since me being a Christian, and there are hardly any Christian businessmen, and in business a lot of networking within the community is done, and we don't have any support that way, and number of challenges. I mean, there is hardly any support, and you have to stand on your own. And in business, especially when you're working with government and with other business communities, they look at your background, they look at
yes,
how deep your pocket is, and they look at what's your background and
your experience.
Yeah, my experience, and they play their tricks. I mean, they try to estimate and try to know what is behind in my mind. I mean, so it's very difficult. It's not easy.
I think that was a very risky business, but then you had a lot of guts to do this.
Yeah, in my 12 years of my working experience with the different companies, by God's grace, I was handling exports. I did a lot of traveling, both within and outside India. So that gave me an opportunity to meet different kinds of peoples in many countries. I traveled to over 25 countries on work, and I could meet many businessmen, interact with them. I could meet I could make friends, and a number of my friends supported me both morally and sometimes financially in trying to stand on my own feet, and that's how I was blessed.
During those 5 years that you mentioned, when you were struggling financially, when you were not really making a lot of profits, what were some of the personal challenges you had?
Yes, I had to run my family. I was constructing a house, hoping that my business would do well. I started a house, and I was not doing that well with my business, and I had to construct my house, and I had to run my family. I had 2 small kids, and in this case, I mean, my wife was working. She was principal in a school, and a little bit of income from that side, and some reserves, Basic the challenge was to get the ball rolling and see that your basic necessities are taken care of.
Right.
Then the rest you can take risk and then get going.
And no matter what happens, the show must go on.
Yes, the show
You
must
can't
go
just
on.
close the business.
Yes, there's no turning back. I mean,
Right.
in business, once you start a venture, there's no turning back. I mean, even if you stop doing that, you lose
Yes,
money.
right.
So you have to get going. Even if you're losing money, you have to get going, hoping to make money the next day.
It's almost like you've burnt all your bridges.
Yes.
Right. And then coming to Usha, I know you were a principal and you were a witness to all this that was happening in your family. So what was your role and what was going on in your mind?
There was a big role which was played by me. My deep desire God could understand.
I know you are a woman of God. So what did you do?
In my quiet time I used to pray and pour out my soul to the Lord. And God has looked all my tears and He has answered my prayer.
What did you pray?
My prayer was that Lord, transform my home as a house of prayer and let anointed people preach from this house. And God has really answered it. And the mission Lord has endorsed is the birth of Aradhana channel. And this channel, Aradhana channel, has become a blessing to glorify God and win the souls for His kingdom.
So you are the silent mover behind all this. Your prayers have moved God's hand. And it's amazing how you prayed that your house should become a house of prayer. And today, prayers are going up from here and anointed people of God are speaking from here. And it's truly a blessing to the community. Wonderful. I think that should really motivate many people to do something like this. Start praying and then just see God's hand move. That's wonderful. Now, Paul, you come from a family which is not a business family. You got into a profession and you did extremely well in that profession. And then what was it that actually motivated you? What was the driving force that really prompted you to get into business?
Yeah. I'm basically, right from my childhood, I have a couple of qualities which probably drove me into getting into business. One was I'm a great risk taker right from my childhood, and number two was I always used to think big, and number three, I always used to work hard to achieve these two, and that's how I realized that business is the right platform where I can achieve to greater heights, and that drove me and that kept me going.
So then if a young person were to come and ask you for advice, you said earlier that you want young people to get into business and you really want to encourage them to do what you have done. But how would you advise them and what is the advantage of doing something like this?
The first thing is I would advise them to act. Most of our Christian boys, I find them very talented. I find them very enterprising, but they lack that killer instinct of, and they don't have the guts to put that step forward.
Right, to make the kill.
That's where, what I would advise them is to get into it. I mean, I think I am the best example to many of them where they can take the risk and get in. And if they fail, they can always go back. I mean, if you don't even act, I mean, only when you get into water, you know how deep it is.
Right.
They have to take the first step. If they have the desire to do business, they have to put their foot forward and get into business and then put in their best of efforts to succeed.
Right.
So they have to act. I mean, if they keep on thinking about it, they will end up being there.
So they have to act on their thoughts.
Yes.
And they say that the beginning of any journey of 1,000 steps is the very first step.
Yes.
That's the beginning. You know, Paul, I've met many young people who tell me that they'd love to do something on their own, but then if only they could pay off this house loan or this car loan or whatever debt they have got into. What advice would you tell them?
Firstly, one who has the ambition to get into business, he should set his priorities straight. To be successful in business, one should be good in managing his pocket, his
Yes.
money. If you see the boys now, I mean, they have 100 rupees in their pocket and they go and try to spend more than 100 rupees and then try to pinch from the friends, and then, you know, management starts from there, money management starts from there.
Right.
One who is careful in spending money right from his childhood, he will probably end up to be successful in business. I think I was one of those few amongst my peer group. I was very careful in spending money, so that helped me a lot. So therefore, when I had the ambition to get into business, I was always careful. I didn't go in for any kind of car. I mean, I didn't have a car at that point of time. I could have bought a car, but I didn't buy. I thought, I mean, this money I should be able to invest in business. So I was careful that way. But if somebody has already bought a car and a house and has a heavy loan on his head, then he must work towards a business opportunity where, you know, with his experience, he should have the gut feeling that he should be able to do well in that business. And if his calculation is right, and if he does well, that loan and his car loan and his house loan, everything can be paid off in one shot.
Right.
I mean, if he succeeds in his business.
Yes.
Otherwise, if he is working as a professional, he'll end up paying that loan for another 20 years or 25 years.
Yes.
So, I mean, it depends on...
So in such a case, you wouldn't advise them to start?
No, I mean, he should be very careful in choosing the business.
Right.
I mean, if, you know, what happens is, because of the background we come from, I mean, we are not from a business community. I'll tell you one example. I let go one great opportunity which came across me while I was building my house, first house. And a business friend of mine told me, if I was in your place, I would have sold that house and then gone ahead with this business opportunity.
Yes.
Now I feel he's right, but with my background, I thought having a house is a priority than risking all that money in business. So, I mean, you have to be that risk taker. I mean, that risk-taking capacity is very important. I mean, if you're scared of everything, you can't be a businessman. I mean, you have to be very aggressive in business.
Yes. So what you have said is essentially set your priorities right.
Nowadays, these young boys who are not even graduates, they end up getting good jobs with a salary of 20,000, 30,000 and all. And I see most of their priorities are to go and buy a fast car, and not even an ordinary car. They want to they start off with an expensive car, and they go and blow up money in restaurants and buy expensive clothes and things like that. So if one wants to do business, they have to, have their priorities straight and save enough money so that they'll have investment is very important in business. I mean, unless you have save enough money and you have as a backup, you won't be getting any salary for the next couple of months if you're getting into business. So you have to save enough money for the rainy day. I mean, in case you don't do well. So you have to plan that way.
So your designer clothes can wait? Everything
can wait. Your car can wait. Like in my case, I never bought a car. Even though, I had money to buy a car, I didn't buy a car. After I was successful in business, I could buy a very good car, I could buy a very good house, all that, I'm enjoying.
It comes later.
Yes.
Yes.
Had I bought a car by taking loan, and had I bought a house by taking loan, I probably wouldn't have had money to do business.
Probably till now you would have been paying the loan.
Yes. And that always keeps on hanging on my head, and I have to there'll be tension at work because I have to pay my bills at the end of the month, and there'll be pressure on me at the workplace, and you won't, your output will be affected.
I think this is a very important point that every young person who aspires to become somebody big should keep in mind.
Yeah.
And I think we are all waiting to hear how you got in from secular business into kingdom business. But that will have to wait, because now we are going to see something different. We've asked a lot of people what they think of getting into business. And let's have a look.
Have any of you ever thought about starting your own business?
Yes, a lot of time. In fact, I had tried also. It's a good feeling when you want to get into your own business and finally you get down to doing it, because it takes a lot of preparation in your mind, family, etc. to get down to doing it.
I do have plans of opening up a boutique, but let's see how it clicks.
Yeah, I want to start a primary school for little children. Yeah, it's a long dream, my long dreamt one.
What do you think stops you? I mean, is there something that scares you from starting up? Are there some fears that you face when you think about starting?
Not exactly fear or scared about anything. It's just that right now there are other things which I have to look after. I have a small baby, so like I cannot give full time to my school. So I am into teaching. I am a teacher. So I am on the way. So once this daughter of mine, she's old enough, independent, and then I will start.
See, what stops us is because it requires investment. It requires investment in terms of money, your time. You'll not be able to give enough time to your children. And then also, if you're not permanently living in a place, it really matters.
Obviously, time management and money management always matters a lot.
So are you being able to manage your priorities, trying to orient it towards your goal?
Yeah, for me it's like coming next year probably, yes. There'll be a new school in Hyderabad, yeah.
Well, that's it from us here. It's back to Nirmala Abraham.
You've got to grow.
That was interesting. Now tell us, Paul, you had experience in so many different fields, but you had no experience in television. What prompted you to get into this field of starting a television channel?
Yeah, many people ask me this question. Everybody thinks that television is something which is, not an ordinary man's venture. But when you know the basics of business, I think you can do any business. Like, for example, if you have to drive a car, you don't have to know the mechanics of fixing the engine. You just need to know the controls.
That's true.
So the controls are the finance, the marketing, the administration, manpower management, things like that. Technicalities are there. I mean, you can hire technical people, you can hire technology, you can buy the best of technology. That's what we have done. And you don't need to know the technology to do any business. I mean, you just need to know the controls.
You make it sound so simple. Now tell me, did you have to do some kind of market research to find out where is the need?
Yeah, that's a good question, sister. What happened is last June, July, we just returned from Israel. We went as a family to Israel, and when we returned, I was sort of spiritually intoxicated, and that's when this opportunity came. And when this opportunity came, I saw two things in this. One is that as a business, I mean, all the skills which I have acquired, I can put them to use here, and at the same time, I will be doing something for my God. And this is a media industry, and communication is one of the most important tool in today's world.
You are right.
And once we have this communication platform, then you can do a number of other activities based on this platform. So I looked at it in the long run, and I thought it's a God-given opportunity, and I thought, God has given me the education, has given me the experience, and also He's given me the finances. So my return from Israel, and with that intoxication, I thought, I grabbed it and I jumped into it, and there was no turning back.
So it was a perfect time. God gave you that the mental level at which you were willing to receive this opportunity, and I think you are basically killing two birds with one stone.
Yes, it satisfies both my needs,
right.
And that's how I grabbed it, and there was no turning back. And I've decided to. Initially it was a lot of calculation and all that, but once I jumped into it, there was no turning back, and everything is going on smoothly.
And you are being a blessing to many people at the same time.
Yes.
I'm sure you're getting good reports.
Initially I looked at this project from the business point of view, but as I started working on it, and as things started moving in a very, in a short time, we could get the license, we could get the right technology, and we could launch the channel, and in 3 months' time, we're almost the talk of the town. And all this wouldn't have been possible without God's leading. My faith has grown multifold after I started doing this project. So therefore, I think it's definitely Lord's blessings are there on this project.
You mentioned that in 3 months' time, this channel has become the talk of the town. What makes it so special and different?
Yeah, I'm sure you've noticed the difference as a viewer. And before getting into this project, while we were doing this paid work, we did a lot of market research in terms of is there a necessity for another channel in our state, and are there enough viewers, are there going to be enough viewers, and how different it has to be from the existing channels.
So you were very sure you didn't want to duplicate the work that was already being done?
No, we did not want to, because when we decided to start this channel, when we did the market research, we realized that more than 50% of the state, there was no channel at all. They were all in the air, but there was no downlinking in many of the towns and smaller villages. So therefore we thought, I mean, we will be the first one at least in that 50% of the state. So that prompted me to start, take the decision to start the channel. And then when it comes to programming, we wanted to bring in a variety of programs. Like, as you know, this Probe is one such program. We have a very innovative program for the first time on any Christian channel, Teleshop, exclusively for spiritual products, especially products which get into a Christian home. Then we have Andhra Kraistava Kirtanalu, which no other channel has. I mean, they're like old melodies.
Old classics.
Old classicals, like. So many such programs we have lined up. I mean, we are doing programs on church history, we are doing programs on Christian personalities, many programs. It's not just preaching. I mean, we brought in programs where we preach gospel without actually preaching. I mean, we deliver gospel without actually preaching. So we are working differently, and people have appreciated this kind of programming, and the kind of technology we have used, and the kind of platform we have, technical platform what we have used is, I'm sure, I mean, you must have noticed the quality is, we've used the latest technology, and that's how you're able to get a better picture quality, better sound, and the kind of softwares we used, everything is top of the line.
I would like you to give a word of advice to the young people who want to really do something new, something different, something big, like you said, something bigger than themselves. What word of advice would you share with them?
They should start planning. I mean, they should have the ambition first, and they should start working towards that. If they want to become entrepreneurs, they have to first start managing have the vision, start. You know, finances are very important, and managing the finance. Even if you don't have the finance, you can take loan from the bank, but you should know how to manage it. So that starts from the way you start spending the money for your own personal use. So the habits have to, I mean, if you have to be an entrepreneur, your habit has to be in line with, you know, business. It should be business-like. I mean, what is business? I mean, when you spend the money, I mean, you have to get something out of it, and there has to be profit is the motive for any business. So you have to culture yourself. You have to imbibe those qualities. I mean, it doesn't happen. Those kind of qualities don't come overnight. I mean, you have to build them over a period of time. And I wouldn't advise a person who is not disciplined in spending money to get into business. One has to be disciplined there, and he has to have that ambition. And once he gets into it, he has to do it with passion. I mean, day in, day out. I mean, I keep thinking about it even in my sleep. So you have to dream about it, and you have to. It has to be like a passion. I mean, anything you do, it shouldn't be like like you go to a job. 9 o'clock in the morning, come back at 6 o'clock and you forget about it. Business is not like that. You have to, it's 24/7. I mean, if you have those qualities, you get into it. Otherwise, you imbibe those qualities, take time, prepare, wait for 2 years, 3 years, and then get into it. But don't jump into it. Otherwise, you'll end up losing whatever you have.
That is very valuable. Thank you so much, Paul and Usha, for joining us today. And I am sure that many young people are going to be encouraged to come up with new ideas and really give wings to their ideas. And they're going to start new businesses. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
So catch that vision. Set your priorities right. And then with the passion, you go after your vision. And with God on your side, anything is possible. The sky is the limit. God bless you.
You've got to grow.
Well, that was awesome. I'm all charged up to chase my dreams, aren't you? Well, we'd love to hear from you. So write to us. Email us at write2probe@gmail.com. Remember, it's better to have tried and failed than to have never tried at all. Paul took the risk of trusting an unchanging God, and he never regretted it. So if you're sure that you are cut out to be an entrepreneur, if God has placed that dream in your heart, just go for it. Don't stop at anything. Take that leap of faith. And I'll see you next time right here on Probe.
You've got to grow.
Well, today's episode takes you on a bus to check out the latest trends in higher education.
Sister Alfonsa is the principal of St. Francis Degree College. Tell us something about holistic education. What is it?
Higher education must promote the development of the whole person.
So you mean to say your students have the right to choose?
We teach them values like sincerity, honesty, hard work.
What does your college do to contain ragging?
Students themselves came forward to start a program called Student Mentorship. I attribute all my success to just one person.
It's encouraging to know that there are still educators today who are providing education as a service.